Hi guys, welcome to this session on Microsoft PowerPoint. What I want to cover in this module is the basics of PowerPoint. So I'm going to look at some of the features you get on the ribbon, but I'm also going to create 3 slides, look at slide background, slide design, slide transition, and a little bit on slide animation. So first off, when you open a PowerPoint presentation or a slideshow, you are always presented with this slide, a title slide, where it says click to add title and click to add subtitle. Now the slide layouts are up at the top here. So that's the one we're looking at the moment, but then this one will come up next. But there's all these other ones that you can select, different layouts, or you could just have a blank one and do your own layouts with text boxes or images. So when it says click to add title, you don't actually have to click to add title. I'll just type Waterloo. We're going to do the Battle of Waterloo again. Now, the key command to move down from text box to text box is Control and Enter. So Control and Enter. And then 18th of June, 1815 was the battle. Now, to get a new slide, I could go up there and go New Slide. The key command you can see there is Control M. I don't like using Control M because it's very similar to Control N, which is a new file, and quite often people do that by mistake because the keys are next to each other on the keyboard. But Control M. So what I do is just do Control and Spacebar, not Control and Spacebar, Control and Enter, which will give you a new text box. And if there isn't a text box, it creates a new slide like it's just done there. And then I'm not going to click anywhere. I'm just going to start typing, and as soon as I start typing, it appears on the slide. Control Enter again comes into the next box down, the text box, which is a bullet list. And if you don't want a bullet list, you would have to go and change the slide layout at the top there and pick a different one. But I do want a bullet list. Now I tell all my students that on a slide you should only have 3 points because people can't concentrate on more than 3 things. And putting 10 points on the slide is a pointless exercise, so don't fall into that trap. We've heard of the saying death by PowerPoint, and that is why people have too much text or too much information generally on a slide, and people are not engaging with it. So what you put on these are trigger words. Remember, you're doing the presentation, you're doing the talk. This is just an aid to help you. So you're going to talk about the Duke of Wellington. Then I'm going to press Enter. I want a little sub bullet under there. So if I press my tab key, I get a little sub bullet. So I'll talk about guards. Press Enter again. Now I want to go back to a main bullet, so I'm doing Shift Tab. Now I could also click on these 2 buttons, increase, decrease indents, but I didn't. So there you go. Picton, Tab, Infantry, Tab, Shift Tab back. And the last person on this slide is Uxbridge, Enter, Tab, Cavalry. And those are the things I'm going to talk about on this slide. Now I'll do some animation later on, so they only appear one at a time. But what I want to do now is just quickly show you down the bottom here, you've got a notes area. Now I could have clicked on the notes icon there. This is what you do, in my view. You give yourself notes. So the Duke of Wellington is going to come up, or the word Wellington is going to come up on the slide. So what am I going to talk about when that appears? He was born in 1769, died in 1852. I'm going to mention that. And what else am I going to mention? Born in Dublin. And then the second thing that comes up is Picton. He, what did he do? He forgot his uniform. I want to say that when that comes up. And 3, Uxbridge lost his leg. So that's what I'm going to say when those things come up, along with other ad-libbing things and little things I can come up with or think to say at the time, which I just had a pregnant pause on just then. But that's what you do. So you don't put all this on the slide, although you'll see a lot of people doing exactly that. And then when you don't want to look at that, you can just move that down. So now I want a new slide, and the last slide I'm going to do, so it's going to be Control Enter. This is going to be French forces, and I'm going to do exactly the same. I'm just going to do Control Enter to come down. Napoleon, Enter, Tab. Talk about the guards, Imperial Guard, Enter, Shift tab to go back. Nay, as in Marshal Nay. Tab, he was in charge of the cavalry. Apparently had 12 horses shot underneath him. Enter, shift tab back up, and then a guy called Murat, who was in charge of the artillery. That's all. And that's all I want to do. And again, I move the notes up. You do your little bullet list. And get in there first, little bullet list. So I've done that wrong, haven't I? So just Control Z to undo that. And then get into the right place. 1, 2. So Control Z is undoing all Office programs. So he was also born in 1769, but he died in 1821 of stomach cancer, allegedly. 2, 12 horses shot. He didn't shoot them, and I haven't got anything to say about him. Nice uniform. That's the sort of thing you're putting in there. So now I'm ready. That's my 3 slides. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to do save, Control S. I'm going to call this Waterloo. I've already got one called Waterloo. So I'll call it Waterloo 1. And that's me file saved. So now what I want to do is look at the background. So I'll go up to the design tab, and I've got some very pretty looking designs, which I'm not going to put on just yet. And on the right hand side of this, I've got format background, which I'm going to do. So I'll go to format background, click onto the first slide. So this is me manually colouring this in. Solid fill, little paint pot, bigger colour, blue. Next slide, gradient fill. This is where you can set different gradients, but also different presets. I don't want any of these presets. I'm going to do it myself. Linear or radial. And then direction from center. And then you do your gradient. So basically, this is your gradient. You see the colour slightly changing there. So what I'm going to do, change the first colour to red so it stands out. Bring this second gradient in. I change that to yellow. Oh, not yellow, mustard. Then click another gradient there and change that to green just to make it really bad. Is that green? Yeah. There you go. So that's how gradient works. Down below there you've got transparency. You can sort of fade this in and out. It's more of a, I'll show you this more with the picture. Like so. You've got a brightness control as well. It's then changing the colours a bit there, isn't it? So that's you doing the colours yourself. Now, if I, on this last slide, insert a picture, this is a picture into the background of the whole slide. So when you click it first off, you get these gradient things which have been around for 500 years, like kitchen top tables, and then that's a fossil fish called Bob. Nobody's ever going to have that as a background to a slide. So what you normally would do is insert a picture, a photograph. So I'm just going to do that. Browse from file. I need to go up into my example files and get a picture of the Battle of Waterloo. When I can't find it, PowerPoint. I'm not going to have it, am I? So I'll just get a stock picture. Stock images, because I can't find that. This is obviously nothing to do with the Battle of Waterloo, but let's have a bird. French eagle. So that goes in the background. Now you can see straight away where that picture is. I could use transparency now to fade that out a little bit so the text becomes a bit bolder. Or, that's probably the way I would do it actually. Or you could change the font colour so you could see it through this. But because this is so well camouflaged, that font colour might be difficult changing it. So fading it out using transparency is probably the way to do that. Now, if I go back to the top, what haven't I done? Pattern fill, this is, I wouldn't use this in PowerPoint, but because that is really hard to look at. So go back to solid fill on that one. And then hide background graphics is all about this. If I don't want that on a particular slide, you can take that off or put it back on. So that's you formatting the background yourself. So the next way is using one of these preset themes. And normally what you'd have as a company, you'd have your own theme. You'd create your own theme and it would be in this list. So basically that's mine with a logo on it. But if I pick on one of these, What's happened now is this theme is meant to be that colour, but it's obviously clashing with what I've already done. So you do one or the other. You either colour it in yourself or you do the theme. So now my picture here doesn't look great with this theme. Now to get back to the default theme, you need to go on to this one, Office, and that puts it back as it was. Now you'll notice that design ideas came up there, which is quite cool, I think, in PowerPoint. When you click on different slides, it comes up with design ideas, unless you've got some really weird slides, it can't work it out. But I don't want design ideas on just yet. I can get rid of format background. No, I don't. I want to clear the background because I want to reset all this. So I'm going to reset background, apply to all slides. So all that's come off now. So it's all gone back to white. And now I'm going to put this on. And that just cascades down all the slides. And then design ideas popped up again. So you can change this a little bit if you want. I'm going to leave it as it is. So that's formatting background and using slide designs. Now transitions across the top here. So we've got home where we started off, where you got slide layout and things like that. On the insert tab, you've got, I'll do this in a different video, you've got different elements that you can bring into a PowerPoint. And if you've got touch screen, you've got drawing tools, and then design is where we've just been. Now we're going to look at transitions. So this is how one slide moves across to another. If I drop this little arrow down, you can see quite a few different transitions, and when you click on one you get like a little mini preview. But what you've got to bear in mind, although some of these are really good, I suppose if you're doing this to a younger audience it might be more interesting to use some of these, but they can be very distracting and annoying. So you have to be fairly conservative in which ones you pick if you're doing it in terms of business. And because of that, I always pick dissolve. And that's quite good when you've got graphs and things like that to use. So I'll just use dissolve. And then you apply it to all, because there's nothing more annoying than everything doing something different on every slide. Now, to have a look at that, you've got some icons down the bottom there where we looked at notes. This is a normal view where we're in at the moment. Then you've got slide sorter view where you see a bigger selection than you do on this view. And then you've got reading pane or reading view, and then you can just go through your slides like that, and then go back to slide sorter view. You've got slide show view. So if I put that on, this is what it looks like in full screen. You press enter, there's it dissolving in, goes all the way through until you get to a black screen, and then you're back down to where you're at, where you start from. Now, if I want to quickly get back to normal view, I can double click on any of these slides and it brings me back into normal view. And as I've already shown you, if you don't want the notes, you can do that. You can also slide down through the PowerPoint using this, like that. Or you can navigate using these little arrows jumping up and down, like so. If your slides are in the wrong order, you can pick them up and just move them and reposition them like so. Just push it back down. You can also do that in slide sorter view. The difference between slide sorter view is you get these little icons, which gives you a little preview when you click on it. That's the transition. And if you did animations, it would have that on as well. I'll just push that back so it's in the same position as before. And then I'll double click back into Waterloo. Now, the next thing is animations, where this is where PowerPoint comes into its own. Now, normally you don't animate titles. So I'm not going to animate that title or that. And if you did, what it would mean was that would not be there when you click onto this slide. It would just wait for you to click again and then it would do the animation. So normally you don't do that, but you can. Now you've got all these preset animations at the top there. These green ones are entrance, then you've got emphasis, which are yellow, exit red, and further down you've got some motion paths, which are these, and then you've got more of everything in these options at the bottom, as you can see there. So I tend not to do that, use these, because when you use these, what happens is, if I just put the animation pane on so you can see the animation pane. So if I put that animation on, that gives me that animation. But then if I go down into grow and shrink, what grow and shrink does, it's got rid of the previous animation, like so. So that is annoying. I'm just going to delete that one off. So what I would tend to do is, you need this box activated, is go to add animation. You get the same things, but what will happen now is I'm going to go for dissolve in again, which is not in this first list, but is in this list at the bottom. Dissolve in. That will be there. I want it to dissolve in, and then you can get it to grow and shrink. Now that's went over the top. Let me just delete that off and do that again. That's went over the top because I didn't have it. I had it selected still, so let's go down. More entrance effects, dissolve in. Click off it, and then back on this. Oh, it's because I went into the wrong place. My mistake. That's why I don't use that. Grow and shrink, and click off that. Now it sits underneath it. So that reason that didn't work just then is because I went back to this like an idiot and clicked on it again in there and just said not to do that. But there you go. Now you get these where you can expand these out, these chevrons, like so. So now I could move these up individually if I wanted to. So that's going to come in after that. So I've got yellow coming in after a green. And then if I wanted it to exit, I could do a red after that, like so. And that's what I will do next, actually. I'll do a red. So having done all that, next one is going to be exit. And I want dissolve out. So into there, dissolve out. And then I expand this chevron, click on Wellington, and push it up after them. So each one gets a green in, a yellow do something, and a red out. Each bit. Now you can see obviously this can get slightly confusing if you're not careful. Uxbridge, yellow, and then cavalry's in the right place. Now you've got delays and duration, it's all on click up there. So what I need to do now is have a quick look at this to see what this looks like, and then I can come back into this and adjust the settings if I need to. So let's have a quick look. So full screen, pressing enter, Wellington comes up, Wellington goes big, Wellington disappears, and guards just flashed on, and then Picton. So that's not right. So I'm pressing escape. So Wellington, so guards just flashed on. So there's no delay there. So let's put a delay there, and it's on with previous, that's why. So let's get it off previous, on click, and let's get all these greens on click. That's on click. Guard, that's with previous, so I want that on click, and exit, I want that on click. So if it's with previous, you're going to have to use delays, and duration's going to have to change, or you can do what I'm doing there. I'm just going to do that on the first few, see if that makes a difference. So now it's on click, so I'm pressing, so Wellington goes large, disappears. Now it's on click, guards appears and does not disappear, goes large, does not disappear, disappears. So that works, and that's what you have to do when you're doing animation. It used to be called custom animation, but no, it's not called, it's just called add animation, and I don't understand why this is here. I think this causes more confusion than it's worth. Now if I just come down one more slide, so you can also create, I've said you can create new slides by doing Control Enter. You can also click on this side and press enter itself, and it gives you a new slide of the same type. And I don't want that type. I want to go back to home, and I want to change this layout to blank because I want to insert a picture. Insert a picture of this device. Now, examples. Archive, it's in photos is what I want, and photos Waterloo, that's what I should have gone for before. So in here I've got a little dragoon, picture of a dragoon somewhere, there you go. Bring him in, make it quite small. So I want to animate that person in, so animation, add animation, dissolve in. Don't be thinking you have to do dissolve in for everything. You can do what you want. So that's going to dissolve in, and then I want it to go add animation, and I want it to use one of these motion paths, which is the one we haven't looked at, and it's this custom path here. Click on that, and then you do a scribble or whatever, even off the slide, and when you want to stop, you double click, and then the man follows that. So in full screen, if I put that into full screen and press enter, it dissolves in, then off he goes off the screen. So that's a motion path. Now if I go back up to British Forces, one other thing, the last thing I want to talk about is when I put this in fact I'll go into French Forces because I've done all the animation on that. When I go into full screen and everything's there, if I do the animation, so I'll do dissolve in on this one because I don't want everything to be there. Dissolve in, okay, full screen. Coming in together like that in pairs, I don't want it to do that either. I want it to come in individually. So there's a couple of ways of doing this. If I click back on that, you've got add effect options there, object all at once by paragraph, not what I want. But if I go onto this little drop down there and go into effect options this way, there's more options. So what I want to do here, two things. I want it to dim to a different color, so I'll get it to dim to that color when it loses focus. And then text animation, I want it to come into level 5. It only needs to be level 2 because I've only got 2 levels, but if I indent it a bit more, you can indent down to 5 levels. But I always put it to 5 just in case later on I decide to do another indent. That will pick it up. Now if I click OK on that one and put this into full screen, you can see the difference. So now I press enter. Talk about Napoleon, born in 1769, died in 1821. Don't know whether he was in the guards or not, I just put that there. But you can see the colours now changed to the orange colour that I selected to fade to. And then all the way down. And the good thing about this is, when I press enter now, if you haven't been disciplined and done 3 points per slide, the fact that that hasn't come up with another bullet and it's just changed to orange means that the next click of the mouse is a new slide. Because one of the worst things in PowerPoint, I think, is if you've got different numbers of points on slides, is knowing what, if you can see what's coming next, that's great. But if you can't, you haven't got that set up, or you haven't used that, or you don't know about it, you can start talking and thinking something's going to come up and like a new slide, but it's another bullet, and it catches you out, and everybody knows that's watching you that you've been caught out there. So when I press enter there, that goes on to that last slide, and then finish. So that was a very quick overview of getting started in PowerPoint. So we've looked at creating slides, doing bullets on a slide, formatting the background, and then using a design. And then we've looked quickly at transitions, and then finally animations. So that was all I wanted to talk about in this little session. So hopefully that's been of use to you, and I thank you for your time.